Technical fun.
Yeah,
It's just,
technical
it
fun.
happens.
This is what happens when you're running such a high quality show. You know,
Mm-hmm.
from your basement, and
Mm-hmm.
it puts a lot of stress on the microchips and stuff, and the computer gets a little angry, and that was that. So
Anybody have some studio worthy software? Definitely reach out to us, or computers. We may be interested.
yeah, I think I just need to. I think it's time to go through and maybe there's some things.
Rub.
Yeah, maybe there's some things on the computer that just need to go away.
Not as precious as once thought.
So, um, where were we, dude? So
So
we were.
we were in a little. We were writing a love note to Buffalo, I believe.
Well, no. So yes, we were right. So, um, we had both picked the Bills, and we were saying that the Bills are hands down the best. They look like the best team. They look like the best team on
Mm-hmm.
paper. They're performing on both sides of the ball. This is not to discredit Kansas City because clearly, you know, Patrick Mahomes doesn't need Tyreek Hill to be great.
No.
You know what I mean? And that's it. I mean, as long as much like I said earlier, earlier in the show, where like Josh Allen, as long as he's on the field, I'm confident that the Bills can win a game. Kansas City should feel the same way. As long as Patrick Mahomes is on the
Mm-hmm.
field, they're gonna, they have the opportunity to win games. So this isn't to discredit any of that, and I think it's gonna be an awesome game. But
I hope so.
I'm just taking the Bills, man. I think the Bills just have that fire right now, and they're
Yeah.
they're ready to just steamroll anybody that's in their way. They
Yep. This will be the best test, and it's going to be the most exciting one to watch.
yeah.
I'm hoping so.
Um,
What do we have? What do we have next on here?
Next on here was New England Cleveland.
Ooh, going from the sexiest to the. I don't want to disparage any team, so yeah, let's just make a pick.
Yeah, to me, this is
Most interesting.
This is an interesting one because I think this has playoff implications down the road. So we see how the AFC North is not. I don't want to say the AFC North is not being competitive, but Baltimore's kind of taking the lead on it. Cincinnati is they're having a Super Bowl hangover. Pittsburgh's kind of out of the picture, I would assume.
Oh yeah, they're.
And then there's Cleveland, and Cleveland's in like the middle of the pack here, and they actually, they have they're in every single game.
Yeah.
That they have 3 losses this year by 3 points. Like they're in every single game,
and they have to capitalize on it because, and I'm not, I don't know what I'm trying to say here with the Bengals, but the Bengals will wake up. The team is too good offensively, defensively. They're too good to be where they are. And the Browns, like, this has been the time for them to capitalize on some wins. And yes, you've had some tough losses, like you mentioned. But this is one I feel like they should win.
right? So I'm going the same route. I feel like they should win this, and I think that they will win this, but I think it's going to be a shootout. Not necessarily shootout's probably not the right word to say. This is going to be a bout, right? I mean, it's going to be I think a really strong fight on both sides, right? These are both run heavy orientated teams. Both, I mean, Jacoby Brissett obviously has a little bit more experience at quarterback than I don't even know the status of Mac Jones. Is he good to go this week, or is it still going to be Bailey
I
Zapp?
think it's still up in the air for what he's going to be doing. I don't know if it's going to be a Bailey Zappi performance, or I don't even know what the carousel is right now over there.
Well, I think, so Brian Hoyer was in concussion protocol, and the last I knew, he was still in. So the Bailey Zappi thing is, I find it so interesting because
It is.
It's so interesting because this is like a Belichick draft pick written all over it, right?
Mm-hmm. And he made it my, the draft rankings before all the teams. He was my number 7 guy. He made it as the last, QB worthy to watch,
Right.
to keep an eye out for. Yeah, it'll be interesting. He's been thrust into the spotlight here.
Yeah, it's I'm just curious. I'm curious how it all plays out, man. I mean, like, let's not.
You can't ride Ramondre Stevenson. Like, you can ride him a little bit, but with both Damian Harris and him out, but Damian Harris out, and it's just pretty much Stevenson.
So it's awesome that you bring that up, because I want to bring up this kind of, I don't know if it's a fact or what, but you haven't seen Devontae Parker or Jakobi Meyers really get involved until Zappe started taking snaps, right? And that's kind of, I find it interesting.
I'll say this, and with it being the case, I'll just make my pick pretty quickly. I'm taking Cleveland here, but Zappe, I'm not comparing the abilities or the physical attributes, but the mentality. Watching him in college and watching his college film, he has a lot of that Brett Favre-ish mindset where he'll just sling it.
He's a gamer,
he's just gonna throw it. He knows that he's gonna go for it. And I don't know if his mentality is like, I'll deal with the repercussions later, and which is super interesting to see on a Bill Belichick team.
Right.
But I don't know what that mentality is, but we're just watching his college film. It is very much like, man, I am just going to go for it. I'm just going to throw it over here. And, he came from a lower end conference, Western Kentucky, I believe it was. I'm drawing my Westerns and Easterns and all.
No, Western Kentucky. You're right. Yep.
Western Kentucky. So he was probably, he was the best guy out on the field type thing. And he brings that mentality. I love watching him in college. I'm loving to watch him out here because I feel like does, like you said, like he's helping these guys actually get numbers. Jakobi Meyers, got his touchdown.
Right. Was that his first touchdown?
I think so. I don't have a lot of Jakobi Meyers shares, so
I know.
Got a lot of Devontae Parker shares though.
Yeah, I do too. And I've been so skeptical. Dude, I've had Devontae Parker on my bench for 2 years. I didn't even play him at all last year. But now I'm like kind of like, oh man, like, do I play him just for that playmaker ability, like the boom ability, right? So very, very interesting. It's gonna be. I like Cleveland in this game, but I think it's gonna be a really interesting game, and I think it plays some, a role in the playoffs down the stretch there.
Yeah.
I really do, at least in conference play, So next game on our list is another AFC game, and another, I think, playoff impacting game. And this is Jacksonville at Indianapolis. So I like
very beginning of season expectations, start of season expectations,
right.
Like they're just flip-flopping.
I really like Jacksonville in this game a lot. I like Jacksonville a lot, and I think the AFC South, I think if Jacksonville wins this game, it immediately eliminates Indianapolis any chance of winning the South, and might even, I don't want to say, I don't want to jump the gun and say put Frank Wright on the hot seat, but clearly this.
No, it should.
Clearly this carousel of quarterbacks that, Jim Irsay's, I don't even think it's Jim Irsay anymore. Who's their, wow, I'm dating myself now.
Yeah. You're, when it comes to ownership and things like that. Yeah.
But yeah, I like Jacksonville here, and I think this really starts to raise the red flags around Indianapolis. And we talked about this in the offseason. We're like, Indianapolis is in this opportunity right now. They're in this window where they had good players on defense, good players on offense, and if they were going to capitalize, like, this was the season to do it. and clearly
Oh yeah.
that is not panning out. And Michael Pittman owners, I apologize. Like, I was
Yeah.
so high on Pittman, and that is just, my entire fantasy rosters, all of them, they're just, smacking me in the face right now.
And I mean, yeah, I've actually fielded a few Michael Pittman offers. Like I have him, and they're trying to buy low on him.
Yeah.
If you're in a dynasty league, he's still I'll put my stamp on. He's still a top 12 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Going out. If anything, if you're not an Indianapolis fan, and they do lose this game and just go on to just tank it, they're a top 5 pick for you. Michael Pittman holders, that could be the best thing possible because it's even if you have a coaching switch, you're not, it's not my guy. There's no way a coach comes in and is like, Pittman out of here. Let's trade him away. There's no way you do that. He is a legit, he is a number 1 wide receiver. I've been saying that for 2 years, and he'll maintain what he's able to do through the season. This year might be pretty rocky, but man, if he could get a top 5 pick and snag a QB next year, that could be even more exciting, for down the road for him. But in this time frame, unless somebody's just coming at you hard for Michael Pittman, and that's why they see it.
Yeah.
Hold on to him.
So who do you like in this game?
Man, I love Jacksonville. Like they're the play that they've got going on, and everything. It's so much fun to watch. Even Trevor Lawrence is continuously putting out his abilities to actually grow are impressing me. It's not like this defeatist mindset. Like he actually takes these steps up and learns and figures it out. And isn't Jonathan Taylor out this week, or is he still scheduled? I don't know. I don't know if he's scheduled to actually play. So that's pretty much the biggest hinge on here for me, because Jacksonville is susceptible to the run. That's probably their weaker side of things. And if Jonathan Taylor's in, it's a lot closer than I'm expecting. So, I'm going to go Indy on this. Multiple things. One, I think Taylor will play, so it's going to help a whole lot. But then also how much is on the line. And last year with Jacksonville knocking them out of the playoffs at Indy, I'm wondering if this is almost like a revenge. I'm gonna get it back here. We've got a lot of chips on our shoulder. You knocked us out of the playoffs for no damn reason, essentially. And so, yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
If Jacksonville's got nothing to play for, that's what they play for, is to knock the team out. I mean,
especially
team,
divisionally.
So this, just to answer your question here, this is an update from today. So Jonathan Taylor's still questionable, and he did not practice today. So he's not even limited. So it's not looking great. But I'm gonna lock in your. I'm gonna lock in your. I'm locking in your.
It's locked in. No takesy backsies. No callbacks. Oh.
And then, so on the topic of hot seats, right? Jumping into our next game. Now, this is not.
Oh yes.
Yeah, this is not a sexy game at all by any means. Really. No. In the amount of primetime games that they have, I mean, clearly you see what NFL scheduling was trying to do, right? And that's not panning out at all.
No.
But anyway, so we have the Monday night game. We got Denver at LA, right? The Chargers.
Man.
I've never had this mentality. I've always been a big believer in, letting things play out, let coaches or players work through their kinks and all that stuff. Not anymore. Throw that out the window for this team. Throw that out the window for this team. Let Russ cook, no. Like Nathaniel Hackett is obviously, this comes down to coaching hands down, because if you look at the success that Geno Smith is having, it's not even that Geno Smith is just going out balling and you're like, whoa, but clearly
he's just performing.
He's performing, right? He is performing. That is a great term to use. Pete, I mean, you're looking at, and again, we kind of talked about this last week too, but clearly it's still a thing. Like, you have coaches and you have coaching mentalities, and Pete Carroll took a lot of heat for the relationship that he had with Russ, but clearly Pete Carroll was like go out there and play your game, kid.
Yep.
And here I'm seeing super restrict, this does not look like the sporadic, let me put the ball down the field, Russell Wilson, that we have experienced for so many years. This looks like somebody that is being coached to stay in the pocket, to, you get through 2 progressions, 3 seconds and you're sacked, like all the rules of the game that is no longer, they're no longer the rules of the game. Like, they're no longer, and clearly, and you see this in the dynamics of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, right? Kyler Murray, these types of quarterbacks that the game is faster. This 1-2 throw thing does not work. It's not working, and clearly that's what's being coached, and you're hindering Russell Wilson, and therefore I think that if they lose this game against the Chargers, 1, it's a divisional game. 2, I think Nathaniel Hackett is absolutely on the hot seat. No questions asked. Like,
and
you can't give up.
And divisionally too, right now, you're coming into where you were supposed to be, the amount of people that were saying, hey, could 3 teams make it out of this division as actual playoff contenders? The AFC West going to make up three teams. And last week we talked about it. I foresee it, I know the Raiders just lost. They lost to the Chiefs in a tough way, but they showed what they've got. And to me, the Raiders also have played a bit of a more, I don't know. I feel like the Raiders have shown a lot more promise, or I don't know how to describe it.
They look like a very well-balanced team. Honestly.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've come across some, tough games, or, whatever you want to say. But yeah, no, that's exactly the case. And I still think you're going to see the Broncos as last place in this division. And you're not going to see 3 teams coming out of the AFC West. The Raiders will make their run. I think the Chargers, it's going to be a big up in the air what they're able to do, because I know December is always such a variable for that thinking team. But in what it is now, Chargers are performing way better than Denver. It's at the Chargers. It's at LA. I'm going to take them in this instance, but this is more of me talking about. I hate repeating myself, but like last week, whenever I had said with Denver, is Russell Wilson's performance the symptom, or is it a cause? Is it a cause of coaching, or is his of what he's doing? Is he the symptom? Like, is he actually what's wrong with the team? And I don't like putting in a whole lot of things, but just seeing like the way he interacts. You have this injury thing that comes out later, like it's an afterwards thing, and it's almost like an excuse, and it's all optics,
right?
But to me, there's a lot of this that I'm feeling like this is Russell that is the issue. And I'm not giving coaching a crutch by any means, because you have a team that's legitimately talented all around. You have players all over the freaking place.
Yep.
But I'm more placing, there's a distributed blame, but I am going to put a heftier portion on Russ's shoulders, because I don't care if there's miscommunication with your wide receivers. If they're not going in the right way, you're the leader of that team. That's what you're paid to do. And you get them in there. You stay whatever afterwards. You figure that type of stuff out. And so I'm more intrigued. Chargers take this game, and maybe a blowout. Who knows? But divisional games, I hate saying that because it can always just change on a dime and things get turned on their head. But I'm more interested in, if they lose, I want to see how Russ plays. Because if they lose, but Russ is legitimately playing better and like commanding and going out there, okay, as a Denver fan, I feel like I can turn some hope a little bit. But if it goes out there and just lays a performance that just looks meager, looks like you just not like lethargic.
Yeah.
It's not seem like it. So that's the more of the storyline or the viewing point that I'm going to be watching is how is he playing and what's the chemistry.
Yeah,
Obviously, you care about the outcome, but I want to see that.
I really like that take of yours because like scrolling through social media, you kind of see that image of Melvin Gordon looking at Russell Wilson on the bench and his head's down and you're like you're right, you're the leader here, like command your troops
Mm-hmm.
and no, I'm not looking up to any leader who's sitting on the bench with his head down.
Yeah.
So or moping
Showing any kind of moping is a good because there's no fire.
Right.
There's nothing like that's instilled in there where you're like, oh my gosh, it sucks. We're playing bad, but this guy still believes. There's got to be something, and it's just a very mopey, defeatist almost. I hate going on about it because it's negative.
Me too. I mean, this isn't we're
but it's reality. It's part of the game.
It is. It is absolutely part of the game. So on that note, I'm going to take the Chargers as well. I would like to see. I feel like I'm not seeing enough of the Chargers like receiving core getting involved.
Yeah.
But I love Austin Eckler. So.
And not to commandeer this to talk about my own, fantasy league type stuff.
Oh no, not at all.
I did.
Don't do that on this show.
No, not. But I'm going to take a 30-second sponsored timeout for my Devi Dynasty team. I actually just made Austin Eckler. I got Austin Eckler in one of my leagues. I just made a trade for Herbert. So the biggest glaring weakness that I actually have in that league is quarterback. I've got Tua, I've got Lawrence, I've got Davis Mills, and it's a Devi league, so I also have Bryce Young in the ranks. I've also got Tannehill in that league too, but don't have that star power to go forward. So definitely, I want to kind of pick your brain on this real quick. And if anybody else has trade questions in the chat, please send them. I know the last few weeks we have a lot. Now's the time. Send them in here. I know we've got a little hiccup with time and tech stuff, but I'll kick off the trade talk. I went ahead and traded away Christian McCaffrey, Davis Mills. I had Bryce Young in my Devi side, so I traded away Bryce Young. And then a Jermaine Burton, wide receiver, Alabama as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then my 2023 first round pick is depleted being Devi. So, but it's still, there's some decent guys on the board. So I traded away that, and I got Justin Herbert and Tyreek Hill. I know Tyreek Hill's a little bit of a hit and miss right now with the injury and Tua being out. Like, what's he going to do? I'm thinking more along the lines of week 10 on. It is a dynasty league, so I own him for the next few, have him for the next few years. But wanted your instant thoughts on that.
So, all right, instant thoughts. I like the Herbert trade. So receiving Herbert and receiving Tyreek Hill, I like this because you're getting. How do I say this? I don't want to say like consistency, but you know what you are getting, right? You know what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And then the receiver of these also, you have tons of upside with all of this, right? So we didn't really talk about it tonight, but Matt Rule getting fired clearly,
oh gosh, yeah.
We mentioned it last week, like Carolina's going to be a fire sale and CMC is going to be out the door. So you have question marks surrounding CMC, right? So I feel like it's a safe play on your end because Christian McCaffrey could end up going to a team that doesn't know how to utilize him, right?
Right.
Or
a committee.
Or exactly, or a committee, or they could end up, he could end up going to a team that just utilizes him even more and knows how to exploit defenses, using him, and they have other weapons in a confident quarterback, and now he becomes a piece of an offense that is dominant. You know what I mean? And now so the Bryce Young has, clearly he's a talented young quarterback, and he's going to be a first round draft pick. You know, I like the trade a lot because you know what you're getting, and
Yes.
who's ever receiving this is the whole point of, it's the whole point of trading and making risky moves, because there's always huge upside, and he could strike gold with Bryce Young. He could
Oh
strike
yeah.
gold with Christian McCaffrey. He's getting
And
he gets the first round draft pick to back it all up too, just in case he's, if in case Christian McCaffrey does get traded here at the deadline, and we don't like the situation that he ends up in. I mean, granted, I would never ever drop CMC until the dude says I'm retiring. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, so I like the trade. I like the trade on both ends. Like I really do. From the risky manager point of view, and from the I know what I'm getting. I'm making a run. I want to make a run here.
Right.
Like, so yeah. I mean, I like the trade. I would have done it if you offered me it.
And to give insight on, it's kind of like a little peek into what we're doing on the Devi show as well, is, there's a lot of guys out there that are just amazing prospects in college. And like Bryce Young, for example, it's, him, CJ Stroud, and a whole bunch of others that are kind of coming out in this quarterback class. So they'll be highly touted. You probably could have sold him at a later point, especially in the draft season, and people, names being thrown out there. You can, that's getting hyped up,
Right.
but you're not playing in a league. You're not winning a championship at that moment. But I put a lot more eggs in the basket of what I know.
Right.
In Devi leagues, especially, you have to. There's all the prospects and all the hype and all the look in on guys, but once they're actually on a team, things change. And then once actually spring practices go around, training camp, that changes. See a whole lot of evolution that goes on and up and down like a stock market style. So I definitely put a little bit more on the build on the quarterback side of things with established known products, because quarterbacking is one of the hardest ones to actually scout out.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody that hits multiple times, then listen to that person and get their info and follow them forever. Because that position is such a pain to actually grade out on the pro side of things. But yeah, so that was it. My rant there. Just want to throw that out. If you have others, other people, please, comment back, reach out with us, or even on Twitter, hit us up. We're always happy to chit chat about trades.
Yeah, just kind of spitballing here. Maybe we should start doing some Twitter polls to get some activity in terms of trading. Like, would you trade player X for player Y? Like, yes or no? Comment below. So yeah, maybe we will do that to start driving some of these trade talks, because I love trade talks. I get offered trades quite often, and in some of my leagues, I accept some of them. Some of them I don't. Like,
as you gather leagues, it tends to happen where it's like, oh shoot,
yeah,
there's trade offers nonstop.
I'm like ready to like wave the white flag though on the amount of leagues that I'm in. It's kind of it's stressful at times. I tend to mismanage now because I can't keep up with it, so
that's why I've essentially, outside of a couple, due to just family friend type leagues, I've dropped all my redraft leagues almost. I'm all dynasty and Devi leagues because
I'm in a few redraft, and that's where it's like really starting to. I think I'm done with the redraft. But speaking of fantasy, right, and I want to get into our stardom or our yays and our nays this week. So just to kind of carry over the conversation that we were having about Denver at the Chargers, one of my yays this week, even though we were talking, we were not hyping up Denver, I do like Melvin Gordon. I do like Melvin Gordon against the Chargers this week.
Okay.
They are giving up the most points. They're giving up the most running back points in fantasy. And then I love the storyline. I'm a big guy in storyline. I love storylines, and I know it's been a few years since Melvin Gordon's played for the Chargers, but I feel like there's always that little bit of extra fire there no matter what, I want to go and
Mm-hmm.
get these guys. And he's, the most reliable. I mean, I would say that their run game is the most reliable source of fantasy points on their team. So I just like that situation. I like Melvin Gordon this week as my yay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not gonna knock it there because he's consistently, whenever he's actually in that ability to take that role, he has that drive, that fight, that competitiveness. I mean, maybe that photo that made it around social media with him and Russell Wilson staring at Russ, it does convey his. He is a I want to go get it. He leaves that all on the field. The way he runs, the way he plays. Sometimes for worse, the fumbling is a bit of an issue, but yeah, I mean but I think he's going to yeah, I'm right there with you. In regards to is it my yay now? I don't want to jump the gun here.
It's your yay now.
So on my yay, so I've got 2 wide receivers here for my yay and my nay. For my yay, I'm mainly putting them here because of the quarterback situation there, and maybe people feeling uncomfortable about it. But I think it's actually I like the change. It's Deontay Johnson with Pittsburgh and with Kenny Pickett over there. Now I'm thinking that he's going to overly perform than what he had been. Going into the season, he was a much higher pick. People going in, I feel there's been a lot of loss. I don't know how else to put it. People feel like he's not performing up there the last 2 weeks. He's not even. I don't think he scored 10 fantasy points. So maybe even combined over the 2 weeks. I can't remember, but I know he's failed to produce. I think this week, I know you're going up against Tampa Bay. It's in Pittsburgh. I think Pickett is going to find his number 1 receiver. He's going to find his guy to go to. And that's not Chase Claypool. That's possibly George Pickens, but I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson.
So I was at the game, right? This is Kenny Pickett's first start. I was there, and he was looking for George Pickens. Like George Pickens is his guy. Like I Pickett the Pickens. Like that's gonna be, dude. That's gonna be a slogan for years to come. I feel like
it is.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, so your yay is
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah,
I know Pickens has got the hype and everything like that, and I love Pickens, but I'm going with Deontay Johnson on this end because I know there's a lot of people fading him due to his last few weeks.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I really do. I like Kenny Pickett, man. I picked him up in one of my redrafts because I'm hurting at quarterback, and I was just like, you know what? At this point, why not, right?
Just go for it. You never know. I
am looking for.
Well, I've got my nay here.
Go ahead for your nay.
Roll with it. All right. So next one here, and this isn't a homer pick by any means, but it's what I think is going to happen in Dallas, Philadelphia. Is somebody's going to get shut down. AJ Brown to me is just too much of a beast. Dallas Goedert is a reliable target, and I think the short end of the stick this week on the receiving game is going to be Devontae Smith. I think he's going to fall out of the. He's always got the ability to run just for lack of better words, a sexy route. and get open. It depends on who's on him, but I think this week Devontae Smith is outside of the top 24 wide receivers. Maybe a flex play depending on your depth, but if we're talking about starting 2 wide receivers, set up, I'm not starting him this week.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been on the Devonta Smith train at all. I mean, he had the one big performance, but even so, even last year, I wasn't even like, I know it was his rookie season, and he's trying to build that chemistry with. But I mean, clearly they go and make the trade for AJ Brown because I don't think they're seeing what they want to see in him either. Yeah, I like that.
No. He's not future wise. He's not a number 1 wide receiver.
No.
even coming into the league, he was not a number one wide receiver. He'll be an outstanding number two. And once he develops in, really it hinged a whole lot on Hurts's development. And I think Hurts is showing that he can handle that clearly.
Right.
So I think you're probably another year or two from Devontae Smith like really blossoming. Maybe something like a T. Higgins, where I'm not comparing them the same player. I'm talking about like that timeline where to me Higgins was a potential number one, but it was kind of teetering that line. And then with Jamar Chase getting in there, it's almost like, hey, he's shining even more now.
Right.
Because he's possibly more of that number two role. So I think it'll end up in the long run. But this week, no, thank you.
Yeah, so this week my name is actually a Devin Duvernay.
Oh no, my Longhorn.
Yeah, just in terms of points, like the Bengals have only given up one receiving touchdown this year, and with Baltimore's secondary, Baltimore's defense alone, like they give up massive points to receivers. Like I feel like this is going to be a game that Cincinnati can finally find their mold, find what they're doing, and they're going to be this is how I see it playing out, right? So this is really just, we know how I am with my hunches, right? Like I'm probably I'm probably going to whiff like on this like I do every single week, but the way I see this game playing out is that Cincinnati gets up. Lamar does Lamar things, right? Where he starts running out of the pocket. He starts looking for his scapegoat, his safety blanket, which is Mark Andrews. So, and that's what I see. That's what I see happening this week. I mean, Cincinnati's secondary they're good. They're great at blanketing. They shut down the receivers, dude. And if his first and second reads aren't there, like that's his go-to is Mark Andrews, or take it himself. So I just don't see I don't see Duvernay, doing much this week. I mean, I don't really see either one of the receivers, but Duvernay's kind of the hotter hand right now. I would say more than Rashad Bateman. So
yeah. And I don't know Bateman's status either. I know he was up on injury reports, but I haven't checked up on it as much. It's honestly, yeah, it's interesting what they were able to on the Baltimore side, what that wide receiving core has been able to do so far. Coming week 6 through, I'm maybe the next 4 weeks or so. I'm gonna be really interested until I think their bye week is in like 10 or something like that. I don't know. It's somewhere around there, but they'll be what they're able to actually maintain and go through in that span will be really interesting because they do go across quite a few good defenses. We got Cleveland, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans that they'll be playing.
Yes,
after this week.
Week 10 is their bye. You're correct.
Okay. Yeah. So that's going to be a massive, and two of those at Tampa Bay, at New Orleans. So you're going to see a very big, where they are standing wise. Do they need to make a push for a trade of some kind, for a wide receiver? Because they are a playoff caliber team. So it'll be interesting. But with Duvernay, I as much as I like to disagree.
Would you say you would like to disagree?
As much as I like to disagree, he's my man as a Longhorn.
Yeah.
He's like one of those guys that, like, no matter what, he'll play his butt off, whatever position it is. And it's just like hey, you want him on your team. I don't know about fantasy wise, but you want him on your team.
Right, absolutely, and I talk about this every week, man. Like the game and fantasy are totally two different things, and
completely.
But you were big. You picked him up. What was it? Week one that you played Duvernay on.
I had him on a lot of my taxi squads.
Yeah,
I was waiting, and like this year, I was like, man, he's going.
Yeah, it was. You played him on a hunch, man, and he had a really big week 1. So, So those are our yays and our nays. We got Melvin Gordon and Deontay Johnson, right? Deontay Johnson as our yays, and then we have Devonta Smith and Devin Duvernay as our nays.
Wide receiver heavy set there.
Yeah. So, for anybody that's tuned in or is catching this afterwards, feel free to hit us up in the comments or follow us on Twitter at MBTG_podcast, and feel free to add us and ask us questions. Like we love this stuff. We every week Wednesday 8 p.m. Eastern time we are here. We are here for you. We want to answer your questions. We want to give you our insight. And again, I apologize for the technical difficulties tonight. So if you're tuning in, this is part two. This is part two of episode 23. Part 2 of episode 23, because
definitely check out one, because it was a doozy.
It was. We were, man. I hate interrupting flow, and we had such a good flow going. Some really insightful thinking, earlier in the show. So. But that's gonna do it for us tonight. And we'll be here next Wednesday, so be sure to tune in.
Absolutely, all day.